Welcome, this is Shanna today for Pixi Dust Designs, and today we're making an Easter shaker gable box. We're going to be using the Easter bag topper add-on and the Gable house box dies for today's project. The Gable box dies require 2 of that larger piece and 1 of the base to put all together. I like to pre-fold mine before I really start getting into my project, so that's what I'm going to do here. I'm just using a Teflon bone folder, and I'm being sure to make my edges really nice and crisp. This does help me when I go to line everything up later in assembly. I just like the edges already to be pre-creased and super crisp. But on the pieces that move back and forth to open and shut, I go both ways. So I don't just score them down, I score them up, I guess, too. This allows for a little better movement when you're going to open and close the box. Here's a little preview of how it would assemble together. You just have to glue the tabs together and then you would add the base onto the bottom. I do find it a lot easier to decorate when they aren't put together for obvious reasons. It gives you a flat piece to do. So instead of using colored cardstock, I'm one who likes to use white cardstock and either ink blend or stencil on a design. I thought it would be cute to leave the sides white but then stencil on a design onto the larger sides, so the front and back. I played around with the idea of stripes, as you can see on my top one, but I didn't really like how that looked, so I went for polka dots. Polka dots for me is a super neutral pattern that works with darn near everything. This was no exception. I love how this all turned out. After I finished stenciling both pieces, I decided to do the other pieces I needed to ink blend while I had my mat out, and that is some grass and some Easter eggs from that add-on die set. I just grabbed a green that was already on the brush. I believe these are my ink on 3 brushes, but I just wanted it light. I didn't want super heavy colors on this. Easter always seems very pastel to me, so I kept it fairly light. Then I am doing the overlays right now for the Easter eggs. I haven't popped out the negative pieces yet on these, so they look solid on film, but you can kind of see the design coming up right now. These Easter eggs are adorable. They layer on to a solid Easter egg, which you'll see here in a second, to create like a pattern on your Easter eggs. And it adds quite a bit of dimensions, so they're one of my favorite add-ons in that set. Now that the ink blending's all done, we're going to assemble the window for our shaker. This die is also from that add-on die set, and it has like a little cloud top border. I die cut 6 or 7 solid white ones and then 1 out of holographic paper. I am gluing and stacking all of the white ones to create the depth I need for my shaker window. You could alternatively use foam tape for this. I prefer when I'm stacking or when I have die cut windows to just cut die cuts. It's a little more sturdy for me, and I don't have the sticky edge of the foam tape to catch my shaker bits. I'm weighing it down with an acrylic block just to make sure it all bonds really well. And then I just rough cut a back and a piece of acetate, slightly smaller than my frames. You don't have to have a back for this. I just find it easier to handle. You are gluing it to the box, which would act as a back as well. So to that front holographic piece, I'm going to glue that piece of acetate, just making sure I'm well within the window. And then I'm going to glue the stacked die cuts to the back piece, giving me a little insert to put my shaker bits in. I'm weighing down the front piece with that acrylic block just a little bit, just making sure it gets a really good bond to that acetate because you don't want it loose. And then I took this die and I thought it was super cute with all these little bunnies. It's meant to be a background, but I decided I wanted to use those little bunnies for shaker bits. It is also included in that add-on die set. So I added a couple clay Easter eggs from my stash and then some white iridescent sequins, flat sequins, to also add to the shaker bits. just for some extra color. Those iridescent sequins also pop really nicely with the holographic frame. So after I have everything flat, you don't really want anything stacked, and you need to make sure the bunnies are facing the direction you need to, meaning pretty side of the paper up. I'm going to go ahead and seal them all in with the frame and acetate piece. I'm going to use that same acrylic block and weigh it down a little bit, and I'm going to start working on the other side of my scene. So for this, I'm grabbing another piece of that grass, and it fits perfectly across the bottom of the front or back of the box. And then I have my Easter eggs that I'm going to nestle into that grass. You could set them on top or nestle them under. For this side of the box, I decided to nestle them under. And then I have Happy Easter. I cut it out of that same holographic cardstock, and I lined Happy right above the crease fold and then Easter right under it. And then I'm popping back in those Easter eggs. And that actually finishes this whole side. I kept it a little simple. This is going to go in my youngest's Easter basket, and he's going to love it. So coming back to my shaker side, that grass will also fit across the bottom of the shaker window. So I'm going to add another little egg to the front of this, and then glue it straight on to the box. I do like using wet adhesive when I'm doing stuff like this, just because it's a little stronger for me and I know I can trust it not to pop off. But as you can see, when I come to assemble the box, I'm choosing to use tear tape instead. This gives me some quick adhesion that I still know is strong, that I don't have to hold in place at odd angles for it to dry. So most of my projects have a combination of dry and wet adhesive. It just depends on what the actual function will be. So there's a number of ways to assemble this. This is just the easiest way I found. I attach one side of the base to one side of the sides, and I make sure to burnish that adhesive really well so the bond is super strong. Then I'm going to come in and attach one side to each other. We're just lining up these core lines. I also use my mat sometimes as a little bit of a straight edge. Now I'm coming across with that base piece, and I'm just going to turn it and work in a circle fashion to apply the whole thing. In between everything, I do burnish that adhesive down just to make sure that bond is super good. And at the very end, I have that just little tab to pop in. And I did purposely make sure it was just a little short tab, not a longer side that I'm saving for last. Then all that's left is to tuck those tabs in. It takes a little bit of shaping depending on your cardstock. This is a thicker cardstock, so it doesn't bend as nicely, but it does after I kind of play around with its shaping. To keep it closed, you'll notice you pop those tabs out just a little bit. And here is the final product, you guys. Thank you all for joining me. I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.